Okay, hi guys. Today I'm here with Ronnie Ruiz. Now, most of you already know Ronnie, but just in case you don't, now I consider Ronnie to probably be the world's leading authority on water and hydration. Ronnie's the CEO of Chanson Water. He's also a long-term nutritionist. He's been in the nutrition industry probably for 30 years. Is that about right, Ronnie? About 30 years? He's an ex-US Marine, ex-powerlifter. I deeply respect Ronnie's work. He's taught me so much about alkalinity and alkaline water. And it's a pleasure to be talking to you again today, Ronnie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Ross. It looks like we're wearing matching colors.
Yeah, we are today, mate. I've got a slightly more exotic background to you, though, today, mate, for once.
Right.
So in most of our other videos, Ronnie, we've talked a lot about the alkalinity of water. We've talked about water pH, and we've talked about the ORP. Today, I really wanted to talk to you about filtration, because it's something that's often overlooked in the whole alkaline water piece, and especially with regards to ionizers, a lot of people don't really consider the importance of filtration. But something I've learned, especially since talking to you and meeting you, well, probably 3 years ago now, has been how important it is to filter our tap water. Why is it that you place so much importance on filtration?
Well, if you look at spring water, the springs that come up out of the earth, isn't it fascinating that knowing, all the dirt and grime and muck that's down in the earth, that water could come out crystal clear? Isn't that just fascinating?
Yeah.
How can you get water that passes through clay, mud, sand, rocks, all kinds of things that should leave it cloudy and silty, but yet it comes out of the ground crystal clear? Or you see that beautiful waterfall water that's coming down in a shallow spring, and you pick some up in your hand and it's crystal clear. Because the earth is actually its own water filtration system. And when water hits the ground through rain, it absorbs down through the earth layer after layer after layer, and then eventually it builds up and gets compressed underground and then makes its way back up. Well, there's many different elements in the earth and in the ground that act as absorption filtration, which means it pulls contaminants out of the water itself. So when humans started to create water filters, what we tried to do is duplicate the process of water traveling through the layers of the earth and then coming up clear. And that's why these days most of the water that you'll see in a bottle or anywhere else that humans will drink is crystal clear, because we want to visually think that water is as clean as that spring water coming out of the ground.
Yeah. Now, our tap water looks crystal clear, but why is there such an issue with tap water, and what are the big problems that we face when we just drink straight from the tap?
Yeah. Well, most of the cities around the world, not just in the UK, but around the world, that send tap water to homes, they have treated it in some way at their facility before it comes to your home. Yep. And most of the treatment that's done throughout the world is either chlorine or chloramines. And this is a disinfectant. It is considered toxic to the human body when it reaches certain levels. However, the standards that they have for chlorine levels in water are really toxicity standards and not health standards.
Yep.
So in other words, they'll say, well, we can put up to this level of chlorine in the water and it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not going to hurt you over long term from drinking, consuming, or cooking with that water. So they add various types of chemicals to disinfect the water, to make sure things like mold, algae, and fungus cannot grow in the water. They want to make sure that the water reaches your home safe.
Yeah.
The other main chemical that they're adding to the water these days is fluoride.
Yeah.
And, there's so much controversy about fluoride. It's important for everyone listening to understand that there's two forms of fluoride that's generally talked about. One is fluorine, which is a natural mineral. We're not worried about that. A lot of toothpaste use fluorine, the mineral, but not the chemical version of fluoride. The chemical version of fluoride is fluorosilicic acid. This is a byproduct of aluminum manufacturing, and when they make aluminum, they end up with millions of liters of this byproduct that they have to do something with. 100 years ago, they were just dumping it in the rivers, or dumping it on the ground and letting it absorb through the ground. And then health organizations put a stop to that, and they figured out a way to sell it back to us and make money on it instead of dumping it.
Yeah.
So it's fluorosilicic acid that we want. That's the bad fluoride.
Yeah.
Not the mineral fluorine, but fluorosilicic acid. So most water treatment facilities now are also adding to that water with the concept that it helps your teeth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I sort of look at it as the principle, if it's meant to harden my teeth, I probably don't want to be drinking a load of it, you know, like if it's designed to harden things, I probably don't want that in my digestive system. So there's the problem with the chlorine and fluoride, but also a lot of people have emailed me. They're concerned about molds and bacteria in the water. They're concerned about hormones from farming leaking, from agriculture leaking into water systems. There's so many different things that people are concerned about, you know, mercury and heavy metals. Do you have the belief that there is this concern with tap water, that there is the possibility that we would have all of these other contaminants in the tap water?
Well, first let me say this, Ross, that most people that are concerned to that level, they get overly paranoid about what's in the water.
Huh.
And everyone needs to understand that there is no water anywhere on the planet that doesn't contain some form of contaminant.
Yeah.
Nowhere. You can go 100 miles down into the earth. You can go to Alaska and drill 200 feet down into the water and pull up, you know, ice and melt it. You'll find contaminants.
Yeah.
Where most people are bothered by contaminants like heavy metals and these other types of things is when their bodies are dehydrated and there's not enough fluid in the body to deal and process these things. You will never put water to your mouth in this lifetime that has no contaminants in it.
Yeah.
So let's establish that right up front. There's no filter, there's no technology that we know of yet that will remove 100% of all contaminants in the water. But again, you've heard me say this before, that our bodies are designed to process toxins.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's okay to leave all the junk in the water and just drink all the toxins. As long as you're drinking a lot of water, you're going to be okay. We know about the major contaminants and chemicals that are added by the treatment facilities, and things like pesticides, like there's a lot of farming that's gone on in the area for hundreds of years, and they're adding fertilizers or various different types of bug sprays. Some of that can leach into the water supply. And so we want to address those things in each area, in each country when we're setting up water filters for that country.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a valid concern, but most people get carried away.
Yeah.
And they want to make sure that everything is stripped out of the water. And the truth is, even filters that claim to remove everything, it's just a marketing lie.
Yeah,
I've tested most of those filters and found they don't remove half of what they say they remove.
Yeah. Okay, so now there's a lot of people out there that already have an ionizer or that are thinking of buying an ionizer. There's an internal filtration process in every single ionizer, isn't there? And it's most certainly the case with the Chanson ionizers. What level of filtration do those internal filters provide?
Well, we have our filter that we're very proud of. It's called our PJ6000. Mm-hmm. It's a coconut shell carbon filter with colloidal silver bonded to the carbon itself. So it has antibacterial action as well. Mm-hmm. Mold or funguses cannot grow on the filter. Yep. And generally when they hit the silver, they become inert, so they can't get into your body either. However, it's a small filter. You know, there's only so much that this filter can remove, especially if the water's flowing very quickly through the ionizer. So I would say in most cases, for short-term use, people are very safe to use just the ionizer filter. Yep. But most people that invest in an ionizer, they're doing it because they want to achieve the absolute best of health that they can achieve.
Yeah, of course.
And to hit those peak levels, you really should have a pre-filter system in it. And it has nothing to do whether it's Chanson or any of the competitors selling ionizers out there. I believe every ionizer in the world for long-term use should have a pre-filter with it.
Right, okay. And so let's talk about the difference then between the internal filter and the pre-filter. What's the major filtration benefit, I guess? We'll talk about filtration benefits, and then we'll talk about the difference in the quality of the water that it will provide you and the effect that this may have on the ionizer as well. So first off, what's the difference in the filtration between the internal filter and the pre-filter?
Okay. Well, first of all, and it's funny, we can't keep these in stock, so I don't even have one to show, so I have to show a box. I'm a little embarrassed, but anyway, you can see the filter on the picture.
Yep.
Now, compare the size of this filter to the size of a similar filter that starts out the process in our C3 pre-filter.
Yeah, right.
So with filtration, you have something called contact time.
Mm-hmm.
And that means how long is the water actually in contact with the filter from the time it hits it to the time it comes out of the spout.
Yep.
And with our C3 pre-filter, you have literally 5 times the amount of contact time.
Yep.
So the longer, so it's not necessarily that the filter is so much superior to this, but because of its size,
yep,
it's able to do a lot more because the water spends a lot more time in the filter.
Yep. Yep.
So in the C3, our C3 pre-filter, the first stage starts out with a coconut shell carbon filter that's very similar to the one that's in the ionizer. And then it goes into a filter that removes fluoride, lead, and arsenic.
Yeah,
three
right.
of the big things that we know are very toxic in
yep,
the water. And then the last filter is very specific for heavy metals and a new type of chlorine that they're using out there called chloramines, which is more deadly than chlorine itself.
Yeah.
So this filter will remove about 80 to 90% more contaminants than just the ionizer alone.
Yep. Okay. And does that have an impact on the health benefits of the water that comes out of the ionizer? Does it make the ionized water more powerful in any way, or help with the hydration benefits or anything along those lines?
You know, it's funny, Ross. I'm an observer. That's what's really unique about the research that I've done is I'm always observing things and looking at things. And I like to observe things like a bird coming out of a tree, dropping down to a puddle that has a shimmering of diesel fuel on the top of it. There's no clarity to the water whatsoever. Who knows what else is in there?
Yeah.
And that's the water that bird is drinking outside of my office day in, day out.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know if that bird is healthy or not, but it still flies away. And it still comes back the next day. So the point is, like I said earlier, we get a little bit over concerned with these contaminants, but I don't want to mislead anybody to ever say, oh, this removes all the contamination from the water. But as far as health results go, it's my belief that the more impurities and contaminants we can remove from the water, the better health results that we're going to see, and the more the water is going to be recognized and absorbed by our bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to build on that, just to clarify, this filtration system doesn't remove beneficial elements in the water. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. So people have a hard time getting their mind around that. Well, how can it choose to remove chlorine but not calcium and magnesium and potassium? It's all based on particle size. Okay. The size of a calcium, potassium, magnesium molecule are far, far smaller than chlorine and other types of contaminants. Yeah. So they have the contaminants get trapped, but the minerals have no problem passing through because they're dissolved and they're so small in size. Yeah.
And the third part, just to come back to my list of 3 things that I wanted to touch on with you now, the third part being that does the having a pre-filter increase the life or the performance or the quality of the ionizer itself?
Yeah, absolutely. The ionizer inside has a plate cell, and the plate. I had my cabinet locked, so I couldn't pull it out. But the plate cell can get clogged with contaminants, and once that happens, your performance starts to drop on the ionizer. So absolutely, a pre-filter will extend the life of the plates and keep the ionizer cleaner, and definitely provide better results as far as ORF. Might not necessarily change the pH much, but you'll see better ORF results with lower contaminants in the water. Yeah,
absolutely. And just for people that haven't seen the other videos, can you give a quick explanation of what ORF means?
Yeah, ORF is oxidation reduction potential. It's the amount of antioxidants or the strength of antioxidant power that the water can achieve in your body.
Yeah. So just to reiterate, that's antioxidants in the water. I just love that. That for me was a massive light bulb moment when I saw you in Switzerland a few years ago explaining the capacity for the ionizers to create an antioxidant water. And just in my head, it just went off like, if I'm drinking 3 or 4 litres of water a day, and that 3 or 4 litres of water is a strong antioxidant, just the capacity for that to impact my health, it was just mind-blowing, really. It was such a big breakthrough for me, and the benefit that I've had since I have been drinking that water has been absolutely incredible. I'll digress a little bit, but just that's one of my...
Let me add one more thing, Ross, and this is a personal experience that I had, and it's no secret to anybody that my first ionizer was a Jupiter.
Yep.
The Jupiter Melody, as a matter of fact. And I used that ionizer for a whole year without any pre-filter before I even really started thinking about the pre-filter and why I would need one and so on.
Yeah.
And anyway, I won't give all the details on this training here, but when I added the pre-filter, the taste of the water was improved so dramatically, it got me in shock. And I'm saying, well, what was in my water all this time? And it tasted so much better just from adding this pre-filter, when all along I would always describe that water as tasting great without the pre-filter.
Yeah, exactly.
But it tasted so much better, and I can tell you, every customer, 100%, in all the years I've been doing this, that has added a pre-filter to their ionizer has all noticed the difference in the taste.
Yeah, I'd say the same for people that have had their ionizer for however long, maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then they add the C3 afterwards. Massive difference. It's like a whole new, another step, the same as the benefit they got from having the ionizer. It's like a whole new step yet again. So, and my experience was exactly the same. I had no idea about pre-filters 2, 3, 4 years ago, and then when I added one in, like you say, completely different water, really. Now, the filters are obviously filtering junk out of the water. At some point, they have to get full, right? They'll need to be changed or cleaned or replaced. What's the next step for people? How long do the filters last, and you know, how easy is it to replace them?
Yeah, I mean, we build our filters and manufacture them with the 1-year change out in mind. We only want customers to have to service the machine and the filters once a year.
Yep.
As far as changing the filters out. From start to finish, let's say you're a 60-year-old lady that's never held a tool or a screwdriver in your whole life, you can still change these filters in about 15 minutes from start to finish. Yeah. And that's only once a year.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple. What a lot of people do when they install these is they'll just take a felt marker and just write the date of install on the canister, and that way they know when the year has come up.
Yep.
So there's not much to look at. If you have, like our newest ionizer, the Max, it actually has a liter counter on the display. Starts at 9,000 liters, and when it reaches zero, whether it be a year or not.
Yep.
Another thing that's important to mention right now, Ross, is a lot of people have a water ionizer or they even have a filter system, and they don't use it much. Shame on you. Use it more. But if you don't use it much, don't think that you don't have to replace your filters once a year.
Yeah.
We have customers call in and they say, "Oh, it's been 3 years. It's time for a filter." We say, "Oh my gosh, you're still using it 3 years later?" You have to understand, it's not about the capacity of liters. It's about how long the filter sits underwater. It will start to fall apart sooner or later.
Yeah.
So all filters are rated for 1 year. All drinking water filters. You should never go more than a year without changing them.
And what would happen if you didn't?
Well, what would happen is the filters can start to disintegrate. They can start to kick out themselves into the water. They can start to kick out the contaminants that they've been collecting and holding for so long.
Yeah.
You know, when you make the great investment of putting a filter system in your home, and by the way, even if you can't afford to invest in a water ionizer just yet, you can start out with just a filter and add the ionizer later, so it doesn't have to go the opposite way. But once you make the commitment to put this in your home, you have to realize that you've just cut your bottled water expense in half or less.
Yeah.
And all the time of hauling the stuff and all the, dealing with the empty bottles and having to drink through the plastics all the time.
Yeah.
When you put this in, you're making a small commitment to do maintenance on it once a year.
Yeah. And let's not forget, with the bottled water, you're also getting a an oxidizing drink. It's got a positive ort and an acidic pH. So you're getting the worst of all. I'm not a big fan of the bottled water industry.
Well, I'll tell you this, Ross, and I don't know. Let me see if I can tilt my camera up, and you can see my little collection behind me.
Yeah.
See all those bottled waters up there?
Yep.
I've got about 42 of them on those shelves. Those are all ionized, alkaline, bottled waters. And every time I see one hit the market, I buy it, and of course I send them to the labs and I test them. There is not, nor will there ever be, a bottled water that is equivalent to the health results of fresh-made ionized water. Chemically, it can't be done.
No.
Because when you take it out of oxygen and light and out of movement, if it's holding an ORF, then they put some chemical in there to make it hold. The same as they put preservatives in food.
Yeah.
So don't be fooled by seeing these ionized alkaline waters in bottles.
And I'm thinking, logically, even if they could, the time it is in storage in the warehouse on the shelf before you buy it, bring it home, it's impossible for the ORF to have held that long.
It's impossible unless they've treated it with some kind of chemical. And believe it or not, there are chemicals to put in water to make the ORF hold for months and months and months. But that's what I call a false ORF, chemically induced.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the only other question I have with regards to the filtration is the ease of installation. I know that there's a lot of people that they're flustered by the prospect of installing an ionizer. Now, I know the under sink can be a bit tricky, and I always recommend getting the advice of a plumber or someone with some, DIY know-how to help install with a VS70. But the Max really is as simple as screwing it onto the tap and plugging it into the wall. It's simple. But when it comes to then the added installation of the C3, how simple or difficult is it to get that installed as part of the whole ionizer setup?
It's extremely simple. I mean, a lot of people, let's say they have the Max and they're putting the Max on the countertop.
Yep.
This filter would still go under the sink.
Yep.
Basically, your cold water line that's coming from the shutoff, feeding your faucet, we just unscrew that. We put a diverter in that sends the water into the filter.
Yep.
And then on the other line, it goes right back up to that line on the faucet.
Yep.
So it's about a 5 to 10 minute install for a non-professional. Now, all the water coming out of your main tap is triple filtered water. Yep.
Yep. And if you can even go a step further, I know that Jody over here in Australia, who is a great advocate of Chanson as well, he has shown me a countertop install. If you're setting up your ionizer in a utility room or into a laundry room or something, so that it's not in your kitchen, to install the C3 with the Max on the countertop, it's just a case of plugging it in as well, really, isn't it, into the line between the tap and the ionizer. You just plug it in.
Yeah, I can tell you, if anybody decides not to purchase one of these because of the fear of the installation, you're missing out on a major change in your life for a tiny, even if it's the worst hassle that lasts a couple hours, which you'll never run into with this.
Yep.
I mean, look at that for what it's going to provide you afterwards. So hopefully out there is hesitating to buy because they're worried about the install. It's very simple.
Yeah, and I know I've seen them many times. You've created some really useful installation videos for all of these as well. So I'll definitely obviously make those available to everybody on the website below this video. That's all really wanted to...
I'd say, Ross, in 98% of the cases, there's no plumbers required. 98%.
Yeah, and that's certainly going to be a lot of peace of mind, I think, for everybody. Because, like you say, even if in the worst unimaginable case scenario, it was an hour or two's hassle, it's done then, and it's the benefit that you're going to get from that is going to be incredible. So, thanks so much for your time, Ronnie. It's been great to talk to you again. I'm sure we'll be shooting more videos very, very soon. I should be hopefully coming to America in the next couple of months, so we'll hook up and shoot some more informative content for people in person without the crazy different backgrounds and everything else. Until then, Ronnie, thanks so much for your time, buddy. And we'll speak to you again soon.